Good morning, Dan and Amy. There's a lot of people that I want to hear from less, and right at the top of that list is Kim Jong-un and the propaganda machine out of Pyongyang. The latest declaration is that we have declared war, we being the United States, has declared war on North Korea.
Yeah, via a tweet from President Trump.
Yeah. To distill, decipher, translate the propaganda from North Korea and what, if anything, should be done about it. We're pleased to be joined by Peter Brookes. He's a senior fellow for national security affairs at the Heritage Foundation. Peter, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
So is there much value to be gained from paying much attention to the bloviations of one Kim Jong-un?
Well, you have to listen to it, but more importantly, our intelligence agencies need to be looking to see if anything is happening beyond the words. In other words, are we seeing troops moving? Are we seeing a higher state of alert in North Korea? Missiles on the launch pads, things along that line. So you want to collaborate or corroborate those two to see if there's any sort of reaction beyond just the rhetoric that is coming out of North Korea.
But do you think President Trump started this? I mean, it was kind of like schoolyard bullying on Twitter, calling him Rocket Man, and they're just provoking each other. But do you think that we're actually going to end this with a war?
No, I don't think so. I think the fact is that I think North Korea understands that if it were to pick a fight with the United States and South Korea, that it would end badly for them. And the Chinese have also weighed in on this as well. A few weeks ago, the Chinese newspaper called the Global Times, which is their English language paper, but there's no free press in China, so you can consider this to be the word of the Chinese Communist Party or the Chinese leadership. They basically said, look, North Korea, if you pick a fight with the United States, don't expect our help.
Well,
and then they also told the United States, just a moment, they only told the United States, if you pick a fight with North Korea, we're not going to remain neutral. So North Korea, which had the backing of China last time around during the Korean War, can't necessarily expect it this time.
So what exactly is the capacity? What's the latest, best assessment of the capacity to do harm other than to South Korea that North Korea possesses?
Do you mean towards the United States?
Yes.
Well, of course, we have forces in the region, right? I mean, we have forces in South Korea. We have forces in Japan. They can reach out and touch Guam with their intermediate-range ballistic missiles. There's questions. There's gaps in their capabilities in terms of accuracy. Like, for instance, Guam is only 210 square miles. Could they hit something that far away with one of their missiles? Are there nuclear weapons ready to be put in the nose cone on the top of a missile and be able to withstand pressures and vibrations and temperatures and G-forces and explode when it reaches its target? I mean, there's still questions about that. They're certainly moving in that direction. They have ICBM capability, but once again, the same thing is true in terms of the capacity and capability of these weapon systems. Especially the warhead.
We all know the dimensions of Guam, of course, because of Hank Johnson.
Well, so, it could tip over at any point.
He's been very specific about the dimensions of Guam.
So Trump said,
I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
But
okay.
So I think I know the answer to this question before asking it. But President Trump, do you think he should put down the Twitter? I mean, he said, just heard Foreign Minister of North Korea speak at UN. If he echoes thoughts of little Rocket Man, they won't be around much longer.
I like the belittling.
You do? Yeah. But even saying that they won't be around much longer, I mean, that seems like we're going to obliterate them.
Well, I think it's important. I think people are going to see that how they want to see it, right? But the fact is that I think it was important for us to have a strong declaratory policy. And what I mean by that is telling North Korea, and this goes back to, Fire and Fury and Locked and Loaded and other things, what the president said at the UN. I mean, I defended him what he said at the UN because he said, look, if you attack us, and as he said, defend. He used the word defend. A lot of people are, it's when we hear something, we take away thoughts, not words always, so sometimes. But if you look at the text, he talked about defending. In other words, if North Korea attacks us, we're going to respond. And I think it's important for Kim Jong-un, who I don't sense is a sensitive sort of person that, considering the things we hear about North Korea, that we make it crystal clear that if they start a war with us, it's going to go very badly for them. And what it will result in is the end of the regime. And if you're an authoritarian, the thing you really care about is regime survival. And I think that's why the president is referring to Kim Jong-un being on a suicide mission. If you start a fight with the United States, we have the overwhelming strategic and conventional forces to end the North Korean regime. Now, that would be very ugly. We don't want to go there. A war on the Korean Peninsula, the level of violence would be like nothing we've seen since World War II, in my view. So this is serious stuff.
I want to add another topic, and this the behavior of senior officials in the Obama administration with respect to unmasking. We know about Susan Rice and Samantha Power, but we didn't know just how frequent the requests were until this story by Brett Baer and Catherine Herridge at Fox News that Samantha Power, in the last year of the Obama administration, made 260 requests for the names of American citizens included in intelligence reports covering foreign officials. Doesn't that demand a little bit more explanation of why would she need those names, particularly since she had no operational duties for intelligence gathering? What did she do with those names? Is this curious at all to you?
Well, I think this is what Congress is going to work on, right? I mean, this was going to be part of their investigation, and they will take the evidence as it is and let the investigation lead where it needs to go. I mean, I think they can certainly have a conversation with her about that. I mean, we're on the outside, getting news reporting, and I think it's important upon Congress to dig deeper into this to see exactly what goes on, because they'll have access to classified information. They'll have access to potentially that information that was that she asked to see, and see whether it was reasonable for somebody in her position to make those sort of requests.
Yeah, but I can see.
I can't judge. Yeah. But I'm telling you, I can't judge from the outside.
No, I mean I can see the point. We don't know what they know, and we'll ultimately know. Right. But I mean, just with all the reporting that's been done in this area, and being an expert in this space, is your spidey sense tingling at all that the prospect of the federal government, the Obama administration, using the power of the federal government to surveil political opponents is a legitimate issue for exploration?
Sure. I mean, I'm open. I'm certainly open to that. I mean, we don't want to see the abuse of intelligence services. I mean, we went through a traumatic time in the 1970s that resulted in the Church Commission. Most people don't think about that, but it was major reforms to how the intelligence services and law enforcement were being used domestically. And I'm always up for oversight on the part of Congress to make sure that they're playing by the rules. So in that respect, I have no problem with this sort of thing. But once again, I just don't have access to the information that Congress could have access to in their investigation. I look forward to hearing what they have to say about it.
All right. He is Peter Brookes, Senior Fellow for National Security Affairs at the Heritage Foundation. Peter, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.